सर्वे भद्राणि पश्यन्तु मा कश्चित् दुःखभाग् भवेत्। ॐ शान्तिः शान्तिः शान्तिः।
Welcome to Satsang. Before starting with any of the questions that came in advance, we promised that we would start with his question tonight. Yes.
So in meditation, how do you break through or let go at the moment where the last little bits of the mind stuff are about to settle? The body's already completely settled. And you feel like when it passes through that water line, bright white light will come. And if only you could hold it just a little bit longer, it will unsheath that light.
Beautiful. So he said, in meditation, when you practice, we get to a place, the body settles, and the mind even settles. And you get to a place where you just seem to be right on a brink, an edge. There's just yet the experience is different for different people, of course, but as he said, just one more sheath, there's something just there. If you could just hold that and break through, then everything would open up. It'll happen. Here's the tragic dilemma of what happens to most of us. We're meditating. First, the mind is wandering. We bring it to a state of stillness. That stillness holds itself. Maybe we're meditating on a mantra or the breath, whatever it may be. But we get to that exquisite state of stillness. And then we get to a state of expansion. You start to lose that sense of outer versus inner, self versus other. Some people may see light. Some people may not. Doesn't matter. Nothing is right or wrong or higher or lower. But we all have our own version of that just beginning doorway into the exquisiteness. And then the mind goes, I'm almost there. Wow. So neat. And then what happens? Right? It's over. Then you start again. And then you get there, and then the mind says, oh, I wonder how long I can hold this. This is so great. I wish I could hold this forever. What happens? The presence of the thinking mind kicking in is actually what pulls you out of that experience. Because the thinking mind, in order to operate, needs something that is not it. So here's how the mind works. It holds the object it is thinking about at an arm's length. That's just how the mind functions. So maybe I'm doing a math problem. Maybe I'm balancing my checkbook. Maybe I'm looking at blueprints for a building we're going to construct. Maybe I'm looking at a project. I'm doing any one of innumerable things that I have to think about. I'm making a shopping list. I'm planning what to cook for dinner. Maybe I'm just judging the world that I walk through. Oh, this one's fat. He looks nice. Oh, God, what are they wearing? Maybe I'm just being judgmental. Whatever it may be. But the mind operates only in separation. It requires there to be something outside of it that it thinks about. Another person, a piece of pizza that I really want to eat but I shouldn't eat, a math problem, a checkbook, a bank account. Whatever it is, but it has to be separate from the mind. That's how it works. That shift that you're talking about in meditation is the shift from concentration to meditation, actually. It's actually the shift where you go. If you walk through the 8 limbs of yoga, but the 7 before samadhi, the first 7, it takes us slowly, go through our yamas and niyamas, how we live in the world. We use our body in asana. We use our breath in pranayama. And then it gets more subtle. And we withdraw the senses. We then take those withdrawn senses and we focus them on one point. That's the single-pointed concentration. Whether I'm using a mantra, whether I'm using a candle flame, whether I'm using one word, whether I'm using my breath, whatever it is, but I've taken my attention and I've put it on one thing. We call that meditation, but actually if we were going to get really semantically picky about it, it isn't actually yet meditation. It's still single-pointed concentration. There is me, and there is the object upon which I am focused. A mantra, a word, my breath, an image. That moment you are talking about is the moment when we actually hit real dhyan. When that which I'm meditating upon, the meditator, actually become one. That's the real experience of meditation. And then as that explodes into the bliss of oneness and ultimate union, it becomes samadhi. But here's where it gets tricky. The mind can do concentration. I can restrain my mind through practice, through willpower, on a single point. But in order for me to actually get into the meditation, to really touch meditation, for that curtain to open, that sheet to part, I can't be in the mind. Because as long as there is something to think about, there isn't oneness. And so the minute the mind kicks in, it pulls me out of the experience I was having. And this is the dilemma. And this is where all you need to do, and you notice it. It's not that suddenly that thought comes out of nowhere, because you are in that state of acute awareness, heightened awareness. You know it's coming. You start to feel that little bubble of, I'm about to analyze where I am. I'm about to start to name this thing. It's starting to get so exciting that I just have to figure out what to call it. I just have to start to wonder if this is it. I have to be sure to remember it so that I can post about it later or tell somebody about it. Right? You actually are able to feel that bubble if you're really aware. So as you see that bubble, just draw the mind away from it. Bring it back. Whatever your technique of meditation that has brought you to that point, bring it back to that. Back to the breath, back to the mantra, whatever it may be. But don't let the mind get hooked in that bubble that's beginning of, oh, I wonder what this is. Oh, yeah, now it's happening. Oh, yeah. Just don't let the mind get hooked in that. And it's very subtle, and it's very gentle, and it's very soft. Because the minute that the mind hooks into anything, there's an other. And the minute there's an other, you've lost that moment. And so it just takes practice. Just takes practice. And slowly those bubbles will stop coming. But you have to let go of the ego's urge to know what to call it, to know whether this is, where this ranks on the ladder of enlightenment, right? So what stage am I at? I have people come in sometimes, what stage am I at? Well, if when you're meditating, the mind is wondering what stage I'm at, you're nowhere. Because you're not meditating. There's still a performer and a performance and an enjoyer of the performance, which is great along the way. Before we can have that ultimate stilling of the mind and the oneness, we have to develop that witness consciousness. In order to not be my fluctuating mind, to not be the thoughts, I first develop the ability to watch them. But ultimately you want to go beyond that. You want to go beyond just the show of the mind, because ultimately the mind stops. And if that part of my mind that watches is very identified in being the watcher, when suddenly there's nothing left to watch, it starts to jump, right? And it starts to be the one that says, oh yeah, this is it coming now. This must be the next stage. It's like this scene in a movie, or not in movies, but in plays. It gets dark, right? There was one act, now suddenly it's dark, they're changing the set, but you can't see it. And you just sit there in the dark and you wait, the next act is going to come. Yeah, and that's what it starts to do. And it pulls you out. So you have to let go of any attachment to what stage am I at, where, and just be. Just exist. Whatever is supposed to happen will happen. And just merge into it. That's the time when you don't name, you don't analyze, you don't judge, you just are there. Yeah, beautiful. Are there any other questions? Yes, yes.
I am a bit confused. I need to understand what is religion and what is spirituality, and where should I go? Because religion, it's more about focusing on some things which I don't believe, and spirituality is altogether a different thing. So, and please help me in forgoing my confusion.
So, the difference between religion and spirituality and where to go. Here's the dilemma, and it's tragic actually. At the core, at the foundation, the point of religion is to connect us to God, is to connect us to the eternal. And what is that eternal? It's spirit, it's soul. It's that which connects us to each other. That which flows through me is the same as that which flows through you. Well, what is that? That's spirit. To be focused on that is spirituality. That's what religion at its most fundamental core, purpose, beauty is supposed to do. The dilemma is that over thousands of years, not just recently, religion has been used as a way of boxing people up. It's been used as a way of theoretically civilizing people, but rather just dumbing them down, turning them into sheep. Do what I say because otherwise God will be angry at you. I mean, it's been used in all sorts of ways that have nothing to do with God, nothing to do with spirit, nothing to do with soul, nothing to do with love, and everything to do with follow what I say. Well, in spirit, there is no you, there is no I. There's just God. So the problem for me is that many, many people say, oh, I'm spiritual, but I'm not religious. Or as you say, which should I follow? Religion is that I'm not interested in, I don't believe. But I don't want to say, no problem, be spiritual but not religious. Because I feel like we need to take back religion. Just because religion has been co-opted by people who are much more interested in money and power than in God, doesn't mean that we should let them have religion and run with it and we'll just hang on to spirituality over here. We should take back religion. And so I would say to you, be both. Be religious, whatever path works for you. Religion is a way of connecting to God. It is a way of understanding the universe. Different religions explain it slightly differently. But one thing is present in all of them, which is we've got this divine creator, which means that this creation is sacred. Whether we believe in some religions that God just created the creation, or whether we believe, like in Hinduism, that actually God pervades the creation, either way, the creation is sacred. If someone you love makes something for you and gives it to you, it's special, right? I mean, why do parents put up pictures of scribbles on the refrigerator, right? Neighbors come in, what is that? That's just scribbles, that's nothing. Oh, my grandchild made it. Ah, now it's something. Not because the scribbles are anything, but only because the creator of the scribbles is someone you love. Therefore, these scribbles have become very important. So in the same way, whether we say God has just created the earth or God pervades everything, either way, this creation is sacred. So we need to take back religion. And really insist that it stop being co-opted by people. And I know it's been happening for thousands of years. That doesn't make it right. Take back religion. Whatever your religion may be, take it back. Take it out of the hands of people who have politicized it or commercialized it or stuck it in a box. Pull the beautiful teachings out of your scriptures. Connect with the divine in the form that your religion, or that whatever religion works for you, maybe the one you were born with, may not be, either way, doesn't matter. But connect with the divine in whatever way works. But don't throw away religion just because it's gotten a bad name. Remember that ultimately the point is to connect to spirit. Because that's the truth of who you are. And that's the truth of who everyone is. And so if we're not spiritual, then this world is just made up of objects. I'm an object, you're an object, you're an object, you're an object. We're all objects. And this is where we spend our lives trying to either use each other to get ahead for our physical pleasures, whatever it may be, but to use each other in some way, or to move each other out of our path. This is how most people go through the world, seeing each other either as you are someone, kam ka hai. Yeah, you are someone I need to stay away from. Get out of the way. Kisi tarah se hatha do usko. Because you're an object. But if I realize I am spirit, I have a body, but I'm not the body. In the same way you are spirit. There is no place I end and you begin. That's spirituality. And if you go back to so many of the most beautiful teachings of so many of the different religions, they give us that. So we need to reclaim the truth and the beauty of our religions, not just allow it to be hijacked by those who aren't interested in God and are only interested in their own power or money. Yeah. Any other questions?
What is the difference between a meditation and prayer?
The difference between meditation and prayer, my guru, Puja Swamiji, says, prayer is when you talk to God, and meditation is when God talks to you. But here's what's important. When most of us pray, when most of us talk to God, we use it as a time to ask for things. So most of our prayer is, oh God, I know I didn't study for the exam, but just do something I should pass. Right? Oh God, he doesn't listen to anything I say. Doesn't do anything I want. Oh God, just talk some sense into him for God's sakes. Just make him understand. Oh God, I've been so good. I want a house like they have. I want a car like they have. Give me more money, God. Like, give me the winning lottery numbers, God. That's what most of us pray for. And the sad thing about that is, first of all, God's not a vending machine. And so it frequently doesn't work. And then we lose faith because we think that somehow, like a vending machine, it should work. I mean, if you have a vending machine in front of you and you put your money in and you push the button and what you wanted doesn't come out, maybe you'll try it a couple of times. If you really want that chocolate bar, you're prepared to, keep putting in money. But eventually you realize, it doesn't work, and you move on. And tragically, when we pray to God for something that isn't actually what's part of our karmic package, that isn't actually what we really need, that isn't actually what's going to take us on our next step closer to God, we don't get it. And then we think, oh, God is broken, or God doesn't exist, or I've got the wrong mantra, or the wrong guru, or the wrong temple, or the wrong... I need a different one, a better one. My mantra doesn't work. I chant it, I still don't get what I want. As though somehow it all were about figuring out this vending machine. The real prayer is that which connects us to God. And so think about, what do you say when you talk to someone you love? Right? Think about someone you really love when you talk to them. If all you did all the time was say, when are you going to do this for me? When are you going to do that for me? That's what we call nagging, not love. Right? And if your loved one, every time you came together with them, if they just kept telling you, I want this, I want that, eventually you'd realize they don't love me, they want something from me. And so if we're able to figure that out, clearly God is able to figure that out. Go to God with love. There's a beautiful story Pujya Swamiji told me right in the very beginning, right after, almost 24 years ago now. And it's a story about a king. And the king had gone off to foreign lands, as kings used to do, with the horses and the carriages, and they would go off to conquer foreign lands. And the king had many, many wives. And before he was about to leave the foreign lands and come back, he sent a message back to all his queens. I'm coming back, what do you want? And the queens all sent their lists. Bring me silks, bring me jewels, bring me fine spices and fabrics and this and that. And one queen, on her piece of paper, sends back just the number 1. And so the king says to his minister, in those days, a lot of the stories, the kings are made out to be not quite so smart. But they had these wise men, these ministers, sometimes a yogi, who would advise them and help them see. So in this story as well, the king was good man, not so bright. And he had this minister, and he said, yeah, this queen, she's never been very smart. Number 1, what does that mean? I asked for a list. Everybody else sent a list. What does she mean, number 1? So the minister says, she's very wise. Number 1 means you are number 1. It means you are the only one that I want. Everybody else wants fabrics and spices and jewels. For her, she just wants her number one. So the king said, oh, wow. He was touched. He sent everything to the other queens. And he personally went to that queen. And I can still remember when Pujya Swamiji finished telling the story, he said, and of course, wherever the king goes, everything goes with him. Naturally, all the carriages, all the horses, wherever the king goes, everybody follows the king. So when we ask for lists, sometimes you may get it. But at the very best, you're just going to get the answer to the list. But the highest prayer is that awareness of, I just want you, God. Just you in my life. Just you every moment. And when you have that, you have everything. And so let that be the prayer. It's not about, oh God, give me. Or, oh God, do for me. But just, oh God, be with me. And then slowly, slowly it becomes just, oh God. Oh God. And that's when prayer starts to become meditation. That's when that prayer shifts into meditation. Because the minute, instead of what you want from God, becomes just wanting God, well then God is there. God doesn't play hard to get. God isn't standing over here saying, first bake me cookies. First prove it to me that you love me. First take me out to the restaurant and then to a movies and give me diamonds. God's not asking anything. So the minute that you ask, just, oh God, God is there. And the minute that connection is there, well then meditation is there. Everything is there. Samadhi's there, yoga is there, moksha's there, everything is there. Imagine that you're walking down a beach and you start to collect seashells along the way. They're pretty. You've got nothing else. You collect them. You end up with handfuls of rocks, seashells. Sparkly, different colors, shiny, pretty. Okay. But at the end of the beach, when you get there, there's a guy with a bucket of diamonds. And he's pouring that bucket of diamonds out. Okay? What are you going to do with your handful of seashells? What are you going to do? I'm sorry? What are you going to do with the seashells? Drop them, right? Anybody going to say, oh, sorry, I can't take your diamonds today. My hands are full of seashells. Why? Because we inherently understand that these diamonds are of more value. The seashells were nice compared to nothing. But when the choice becomes, in our material world, seashells or diamonds, we've got a choice, a handful of seashells, a handful of diamonds. Well, obviously the diamonds are of infinitely more value. In the same way on a spiritual level, that's on the material level. On a spiritual level, yeah, I can ask for all these things. Give me a better house, give me a better car, get me into the best college, give me an A on this exam, give me this, give me that. Compared to nothing, a nice car sounds nice. Compared to nothing, winning the lottery sounds nice. But when the option is to live in the presence of God, you realize that that is of infinitely more value than all of that which you've been grabbing for along the way. And then you're prepared to just let it go because all you want is God. And that, when we talk about vairagya, this is vairagya, detachment. It's not, I push away the world. It's not this iron will discipline of I won't be attached to money or things. It's not that. It's I have realized something of so much more infinite value that my attachment to those things has dropped out of my hands as quickly as the seashells. The guy with diamonds doesn't have to say, you know, you really should let go of some of those seashells. And I don't have to convince myself to let go. It's automatic. The minute I realize those are diamonds and I can have a handful of them, it's automatic to drop the seashells. No remorse, no attachment, no misery, no depression. Automatic. In the same way, when that experience of the presence of the divine is there, automatically my attachment to all of that was filling my hands, filling my mind, filling my life. Better job, better car, better house, nicer clothes. More fame, more name, more appreciation, more this, more that. Suddenly my attachment to all of that, it automatically. Because I realized, oh, this is what I want. Yes. God. But we start with prayer.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Start with the prayer and it converts into the meditation.
When you pray the right way. Otherwise, as Puja Swamiji says, yadi list leke isht ke paas jaake baith jayenge. Agar isht ke paas jayenge list leke.
Okay.
So then it's just about your list. But when it really becomes about God, then everything is there. Yes. Last question for tonight.
My question sounds religious, but I'm trying to explore the spiritual, in the context of spirituality. How you can overcome the prarabdhas or clear out or fight or get rid of it?
To get rid of?
Prarabdhas. Prarabdhas.
Achha, okay. I didn't know what language. Yes, okay. How do we free ourselves of all of this karma from the past, but that's bearing fruit now? And it's going to bear fruit in the future in our lives. Only by, well, first of all, you can't get rid of the karmic package from the past. That's there. We cannot, unfortunately, rewind our lives. However, the power of grace, the power of surrender is such, the power of true awareness is such that it actually can come through and wipe out even the past karmic package that's bearing fruit now and going to bear fruit in the future. But most importantly, is not creating more karma, That which I've already created, okay, it's happening. But right now, I'm creating more. Every single thing I do is creating another karmic fruit. Karma means action. We use the word to act colloquially to mean that which I get, but it's not actually correct. The word karma literally means the action. That which I get is the fruit of the action. So if it's going to be sweet, we tend to colloquially call that good karma. Some of it's going to be bitter, we tend to call that bad karma. But the truth is, it's neither good nor bad. The universe doesn't have an objective or subjective labeling system. The universe has no preference for wealth or poverty, success, failure. The universe loves the dry season as much as the rainy season, cold season as much as the warm season, old age as much as youth, gray hair as much as black hair. The universe doesn't have a preference. We have preferences. We see things like poverty, failure as, oh, that's bad karma. You must have done something bad. You're being punished. But no, it's actually just science. Plant an apple seed, you'll get an apple tree. Plant an orange seed, you're going to get an orange tree. But here's where it gets more subtle with karma. They don't cancel each other out. So if in my past I've done actions that are bearing fruit now and are going to bear fruit in the future as bitter, I may think, oh, well, I'll do a lot of good things now and then they'll all just cancel each other out. Unfortunately, it doesn't work that way. It's not like money in an actual bank account where the deposits cancel out the withdrawals. We have to keep coming back in this body. This is when we talk about samsara, this wheel of birth and death, until that karmic bank account is empty. But then, of course, the question is, well, if doing bad things is going to give me negative karma and doing good things is going to give me positive karma, sweet fruit, either way, I've got to come back to reap it. And okay, it's going to be more pleasant to come back and reap the sweet fruit. But if the goal ultimately is not to have to come back, which is theoretically what the goal is. And I say theoretically because my guru and other enlightened masters have said, the body's not the problem. It's not about, I can't wait to be free of this body and then have moksha. The body is not what keeps me stuck. Most people think, oh, I can't wait to be free of the body. I'll die and then I'll have freedom. I'll have moksha. Be free of all my karmic debts. But it's not the body that keeps us stuck. It's the mind. And so you actually can be free even in the body. That's when we talk about jiva mukti. That's what it means. Literally freedom while in the body. So if we say, though, that the ultimate goal is not to have to keep coming back, or even to simply experience that obliteration of my karmic package while I'm in the body, how do you do that? You can't not act. In the Bhagavad Gita, Lord Krishna makes this very clear. He says, you're always acting. Because Arjuna, of course, says, forget it. I don't want to fight this war. I don't want to get the karmic fruit. I'm going to go off into the forest, meditate in a cave, and Lord Krishna says, not so fast. By not doing your duty, you are accruing karmic results. The act of omission is just as much an act as an act of commission. That which I don't do is an act. If you fall down in front of me and I don't pick you up, I've done something. And so Arjuna says, well, then what's the answer? Lord Krishna says, you're always acting. Even you sit down, don't act, you're still acting. Because if you're not fulfilling your duty, that's an action. So what's the solution? Right? You could sit here, you could sit on your hands. The mind, of course, is still thinking. But I could sit here, sit on my hands, put earplugs in my ears, close my eyes, have no contact with the outside world, but I'm still accruing this karmic debt. Because I have a duty and I'm not doing it, and that's giving me karmic fruit. So the only way to avoid all of that, Lord Krishna says, is just surrender to me. Just whatever you do, do it as a tool in my hands. Stop thinking you are the doer. Stop thinking it's about you. Stop thinking you're the star of this show. It's not about you. You're not the doer. I'm the doer. Be a tool in my hands with full surrender. Let me work through you. And that's the only way to fully free ourselves, is to simply allow the divine to work through us, to let our prayer be, oh God, use me. Use my every breath, use my every moment. Use me. And what's so beautiful to me here, also going back to the concept of religion, is you take the prayer of St. Francis of Assisi. Same thing. O Lord, make me an instrument of thy mercy. Right? Where there is hatred, let me sow love. And he goes through all of it. It's the same teachings. Let me be a tool. Let me be an instrument in the hands of God. So it's not about your religion. It's not about having to change your religion. It's not about having to be an instrument of God in the form of Lord Krishna, if that isn't your religion. It's about being a tool in the hands of the divine and really allowing our lives, that which we do, that which we think, that which we speak, every breath, to be used for that divine flow. And when you are able to do that, to empty yourself fully of that attachment, of that sense of me, mine, what's in it for me? What about me? Why is no one appreciating me? Why do I always have to do the dishes all the time? When we're able to empty ourselves of that and just be a tool, that's when we start to break free of all of the karmic bank account that we keep accruing.
Fantastic.
Have a Have a beautiful, beautiful rest of your evening. And we'll see you all tomorrow.